So let me explain a little bit about what we do, or what we're after, and then I'll ask you some questions and I'll put it in context. I have a background in the MI industry as a rep for 30 years, and then I studied jazz guitar, and I did some consulting for some companies and all of that. And in that frame, I discovered there was a real when Just Jazz Guitar magazine went out of business, there was no place for anybody to talk about that style of music. But when I went to jazz school, I discovered that nobody played 3-inch deep archtop guitars there. Everybody's playing Tellys and Strats, 335s, thin lines, and things like that.
Yeah.
And also, nobody was really concerned about learning to be jazz players. Well, some, I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of the guys there were, they were playing straight ahead gigs of all different types, but they all wanted one thing, and that was, more sophistication and more language in their music. So really, that's what jazz guitar today is all about. It's as much about improvisation of blues and jazz and fusion and everything. Our current cover is Jimmy Bruno, who's obviously old school, but before that it was Scott Henderson, and we've had Oz Noy on the cover. We've had Robin Ford on the cover. We've had Eric Johnson's going to be the next cover, which is some part of what I want to talk to you about a little bit today. How does that kind of sensibility fit into what you guys are developing at the Custom Shop?
Well, the Fender guitars, all the way back to the original designs, they were so far ahead of their time that as soon as the players got their hands on them, at first the guitars were sort of laughed at by the industry because they were solid body. They gave them weird nicknames, like boat paddle and things like that. But as with any art form, there are those that are forward thinkers, early adapters, people who are always searching for something new, and so on. So when these particular types of players got a hold of the Fender guitars, they immediately began to play new music. It inspired them to play differently than they'd ever played before. So things began to advance rapidly. And if you look at the artists that were playing the Fenders early 50s, they were all heavyweight, high-octane jazz type players like Jimmy Bryant, Bill Carson. And even though the music they were playing was, sort of Western swing flavored, these guys were pretty much at the top of the game. And it's really been that way ever since. I mean, the Fender guitar, the inherent design lends itself to high performance. And that was Leo's goal in the beginning, was to make something that was easier to play, better access to the full range of the neck, and his method of placing the frets made it so that the guitar actually played in tune, so on and so forth. So the whole thing lends itself towards being ahead, looking forward. And even though the designs are, 70 years old, some of them, they're still futuristic. They're still, people still want, they don't really do a whole lot to it. It's kind of like speaks for itself.
Oh, absolutely. By the way, I've got 2 Strats and a Telly myself, and I failed to mention Brent Nason has been on our cover as well, and I know that you're working with him.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. In working with Eric Johnson, who again is going to be on our cover next month, you developed several guitars with him, and Eric plays all over the place. I think he's got the widest tonal palette of any player I'm aware of. Everything from the kinds of things he does on Manhattan and East West and that in the more more jazzier vein, if you will. How do you approach that? I mean, how is it working with those kinds of artists, developing their instruments?
Well, in the Custom Shop, we have just the one model, the Virginia, that we just came out with. First of all, Eric is a fabulous musician and a super human being, a really, really wonderful guy and great to work with. Not only is he very precise in his approach to the guitar, he's very precise in the way he wants his guitar to be. I think he tinkers with his guitars and constantly dialing them in, to fit his particular style or what he wants out of that particular guitar. And it seems like each guitar is a little different, like he'll want certain things he'll want different things out of each different guitar, you know what I mean? And so this particular model was, a replica of his first 54 Strat that he used in his early career. is really just a simple process of working directly with him and learning about all those small little modifications that he had done to it, and replicating it. When he got his first prototype, he loved it, and he began playing it, to my understanding, almost exclusively on all of his gigs. I don't know about what's happening today, but the last time I saw him, that's what he said. It's
Go ahead.
as with any artist, that we work with, it's a collaboration. They ask her, they want certain things, certain neck shape, certain fingerboard radius, certain functionality, certain weight. All these, it varies. And some of the artists are less concerned with some of the smaller details, and some of them are very, very concerned. So everybody is different and has different concerns. So it's a matter of just learning the person and working close with them and giving them what they want. And with the custom shop, I mean, the sky is pretty much the limit. Our master builders are unequaled in their abilities and imagination and creativity. So a lot of times, during that collaboration, new things will come out. New things will come to light, and it's a learning experience for everybody. It's great.
Well, thank you very much. Not specifically for jazz, but just guitar in general. Let's kind of talk about that. What kinds of trends are you seeing people requesting of you in the custom shop right now? You see any major trends, mega trends as there were? Or?
Well, when we first started 30 plus years ago, we were doing primarily vintage stuff. Take a Strat, for example, vintage radius, vintage frets, vintage wiring. But as the years have gone by, people have started asking for basically a vintage platform, but with modern player-centric features, things that for the way people play today. People bend notes, they bend the strings, they want the 5-way switch. So that usually translates to a flatter fingerboard radius or bigger frets, wider frets, or taller frets. But I think really the trend from us, it's the vintage platform, but with, things under the hood that are a little bit more flexible, to allow the player to do things that they want to do today, in today's music.
Right.
That would translate to some wiring options, more flexible wiring options. And as I mentioned earlier, the neck, frets, playability, things like that.
When I was preparing for talking to you, I went back and watched a bunch of your interviews from NAMM.
Okay.
In 2018, you and Greg Koch, and 2018, 19, and 20, actually. I was astounded, how's that for a word, at exactly what you just spoke about under the hood. We're pretty much looking at Tellies and Strats for the most part. And yet the differentiator was everything going on with the pickups, with the wiring, basically the electronic choices, with, switching choices. This pickup is, with no tone, with all tone, full on, full out. This wiper is connected to that, so that as you roll down the volume, the impedance, I watched all of it, listened to all of it.
Yeah.
That really, that's a big deal. And I don't know how many, I know there's a level of Eric Johnsons out there that understand all that and they get all that. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And in fact, this is as much as this is an interview, but it's also just talking with you somewhat.
Sure.
Is maybe as part of this, we could get some wiring diagrams. Somebody, in your PR department or somebody could send us over some wiring diagrams and the differences, and we'll connect a couple of videos to them to sort of explain to a lot of people what's really going on and what the choices really are, because I really believe that most people have no clue. They especially guys that have been coming from straight out archtop guitars, if that's what they're playing, they look at all those knobs and dials and wonder why do I need that, or what would be the advantage
Sure.
to that. And I think an education as to the sophistication that's going on in the choice of just how these things are wired together. Obviously, we did a big thing with with pickup wire and all that kind of thing. We were talking with the people at Lawler and so forth and so on. But I would love to talk to you. I'd love to have you give us a little bit of stuff about the pickups, differences in the pickups, and what we can look for. And we'll have to, obviously, we're going to have to, edit that and get it to something that's, kind of, readable. But some of those diagrams would be great, because I think that, some of the things that I heard you talk about, and I thought I was pretty sophisticated. I didn't realize you guys were doing that. And if I didn't realize you guys weren't doing it, I would imagine there's a whole lot of our readers that don't have any idea either. So
sure.
And try to get some of that for the article.
Well,
what about things? What?
I was just going to say a little overview of that. When we approach it, the first thing I should say is we are primarily build to order. A very small percentage of our offering is really stuff that is sort of predetermined. Okay, as far as a model goes, broadcaster being one of them, right? That's a limited edition, and the guitars that you heard us talking about in those videos, those are part of our annual collection, right? Those guitars exist primarily to showcase these things that you just discussed, pickups or wirings or finishes or neck shapes or whatever it might be that we offer as options for a custom build. When we approach these models, we try to package those options together as one whole thing. It's like the design of the particular guitar, we look at it as one thing. What I should say is it's not one thing, it's the whole thing. Okay. It's not the pickups, it's not the wiring, it's not the neck, it's the whole thing together, right? Even if you look at the original design of the Stratocaster, for example, or the Telecaster, the inherent design of those instruments, it all works together. It's one complete design from head to toe. It's not just things thrown together, a series of things that fit together perfectly and work well with each other, and the form followed the function, right? So when we're doing these models, it may feature these pickups, this wiring, this neck shape, or whatever, but it's all designed to fit together to create one whole thing. Like the pickups work well with the wiring. Maybe the particular wiring that's selected enhances those pickups even more because of the type of wire that it uses or what it's potted in or things like that. You know what I'm saying? So
sure.
We're trying to create something that works as one whole tool that allows players to do specific things. Now, some other models may not allow the same specific things. They'll allow a different set of specific things, like pickup combinations or whatever. And we learn these things based on what people ask for over the years. Hey, can you make me one that does this? Or can I get a guitar, have it wired such and such a way? Or can we do these pickups a little bit hotter or a little bit lower output? And then, we learn from that and we do that, but then we also try to anticipate, well, what do people not know that they want? You know what I mean? And how do we?
I'm laughing because I used to work with a lot of R&D in pro audio. I was a pro audio rep for 30 years. Yeah. And I'm laughing at that because that's something that I would say all the time to our engineers and developers. Anyway, go ahead.
There's three kinds of things to make, right? There's three different ways to approach it. One is you give people what they expect you to do. Okay, so from us, they expect us to be able to make an original vintage spec guitar. They expect that,
right?
And that makes them really happy. It makes them feel good, and they go, thank goodness they haven't forgotten who they are and all this kind of stuff. And they go, that's great, but what I really want is, I want that, but I want this other capability. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that part's easy. Giving them what they want is easy because all you have to do is ask or listen, right?
Right.
So, but the third one is offering something that they don't know they want. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny you say that.
Surprising and delighting them. And the way you do that is you look at what they're trying to do. What are they trying to accomplish?
I used to sit on a lot of boards where I would be asked to help product develop. And this is in amplifiers and mixing consoles and that kind of thing. And so often they would say, well, what do you want? And I'd say, well, I want this, this, and this, that, and the other thing. And they'd say, well, and then they'd show me what they're already working on. And I go, well, you can do that? You're kidding. I mean, they would come up with stuff that I had no idea that was even possible. And most of the cool stuff, really showed up that way. So I really can appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah. So at first, you didn't know you wanted it, but then you saw it and you go, I got to have it. Right.
So you can't live without that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
gotta have that.
the light bulb goes off and you realize all the things that you can do with it. When you see something like that you hadn't thought of before, you realize all the things that it's going to allow you to do.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm laughing because I've got a lot of experience with that, with those epiphanies that I didn't originate. You know, people injected epiphanies into my head, so I can appreciate that. So let me ask you a question. If you were a guy who's been playing, let's say he's been playing archtop guitars or in all of that, and he likes that tonality. That's the sound that he really, you know, he likes a lot, but he's found himself in a position where maybe he can only take one guitar to a gig. He's playing in a wedding band of some kind, and he plays, you know, half the night he's playing jazz standards for the reception, and then later on they're play that funky music, White Boy, and they've got to play funkier and all of that. How would you approach, you know, getting to that guy that is close to an authentic jazz tone? Let's say that was me. I'm your customer. I want as close to an authentic jazz tone and feel as I can get, you know, for half of my gig, but then I want to be able to quote unquote rock out for the other half of the gig. How do you approach that problem, which I'm sure people have asked you in the past?
Well, what I always tell people is, first of all, I mean, we've got, you know, in the Fender guitar range, there's 4 basic models: Stratocaster, Telecaster, Jaguar, and Jazzmaster. And each one of them feels different in your hands and next to your body. So the first step is to pick up one of each of those and see what feels good. And so then once you decide that, let's just say the person picks a Strat. Stratocaster is probably one of the most versatile guitars in terms of the tones it can produce, simply because it's got 3 pickups and the way the controls are, right? But I always tell people, if he's a good player, the tone is going to be in your hands. It's really not going to be, you can't rely on the guitar 100%. You know, to be able to say, hey, play this guitar through this amp and you'll get such and such a tone. You'll get so-and-so's tone, right? Well, unfortunately, when you do that and you play it, you end up still sounding like yourself, right? So
yeah, I'm laughing. Yeah, I hear you. So
the way I would put it is, the player, he's hearing the tone in his head that he wants to get, right? He's gonna get that tone. You got to hear it in your head first. If you can't hear it in your head, you can't produce it with your hands. The player is going to, if he's moving from a hollow body guitar to a Stratocaster, for example, he's going to adapt. He's going to adapt the way he holds it, the way he plays it, the way he touches it, the way he attacks it, where he plays, you know, with the pick, you know, whether it's further towards the neck or down by the bridge. He's gonna make all those adjustments to get the sound out of it that he hears in his head. You know, he's going to select the pickups that work for him. He's going to play through the amp that works for him. You know what I mean? So I think it's more about that than just saying, here's this guitar, it's got every sound under the sun. You still have to play it. You still have to put your hands on it, and you still have to produce the tone yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, believe me, I live with it every day.
Really, based on that, really any one of them. You know, you see a lot of jazz players playing tellies. And I would say probably because that neck pickup, just when you plug it in and turn it on, it's right there. You know what I mean? There's that kind of tone, I think, that a lot of guys look for a traditional jazz tone. And if you listen to guys like Jimmy Bryant, even his old records, you know, sometimes you can't even, you go, that's a telly, you know? Wow.
Yeah, I'm just curious if you I mean, this is really kind of off the reservation a little bit, but that's your business, isn't it? If you threw a telly pickup in the neck position of a Strat in the custom shop, have you ever done that?
A telly neck position?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, we've done it.
And does it sound like, does it have that telly sound, or does the shape of the wood and everything like that have an effect on it?
Well, if you put a Telecaster neck pickup in the neck position on a Stratocaster, you've got to screw. You have to mount it to the body for it to sound like a telly. Because you know, the way the pickup sounds, if it's mounted to the pick guard versus screwed into the body, the sound is really different. So on a Telecaster, the pickup is, you know 99 times out of 100 is actually screwed into the body. So you know, I think that's one of the things that people neglect to do when they put that pickup on there, they want to mount it to the pickguard on a Stratocaster. If you screw it into the body, it'll sound as close as it can for it not being a Telecaster.
So let me move on to something else here. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. So what do you see as the future of the custom shop?
Future of the custom shop is that we're always pushing the envelope, coming up with ideas that, like we discussed earlier, that either had never been thought of before or had never been utilized in the way they were utilizing it. Continuing with our attitude of the sky is the limit and no job is too big or too small. And every detail from the smallest to the biggest are equally as important. And we're constantly increasing our capabilities with design and fabrication, ways to do things, constantly pushing the envelope. So the future, is, like I said earlier, we're primarily build to order. I mean, more than half than what we do is one of a kind, maybe two. They're people's dreams. People think these things up and they want them. Then they call one of our sales consultants and they work it out. Quite often, they have an idea, but they don't have all the details worked out, and that's where our guys come in, right? Where we say, okay, let's dial this in. We're keeping on, and I'd like to see us get into more a one-on-one consultative experience, where people have the opportunity to actually sit down with the builder in person and work out their design.
Can you request a builder?
Oh yes, you can request a builder.
Can you request a specific builder?
Yes.
And are you available to, if people call up or say, I'd like a guitar and can I meet with you one-on-one? Is that something that you encourage, where people, fly out to see you and sit down with you and go over their dream?
That's not part of the normal process. However, what we do, mainly because we're not set up for that, but what we do offer is that if you order a master built guitar, first of all, you can choose your builder, and you can also request that the builder contact you when they begin the project. So, and that goes right on the order, right? Yes, please contact me. Here's my phone number and email address. So if that is there, then the builder, when that order comes up, the builder will contact the customer and say, hey, okay, I'm getting ready to start on your guitar. Let's go over that. Let's go over the specs, right? They go over every little thing. And quite often things end up changing a little bit, because what the builder will do is they'll ask a bunch of questions like, what kind of music do you like? Who are the artists that you like? What are some of the other guitars? What are some of the other guitars that you have? What kind of amp do you play? And the builder will make suggestions. He'll look at the specs of the guitar and say, well, you might consider this instead of that. So you know what I'm saying? So it's there is that consultative experience, but it's not face to face. It's like either over the phone or something like that. Yeah, I'd like to get to the point where we could offer something like, hey, come on out to the shop. And
do you, Liz Taylor, she had a Continental Mark V, and the color of the car was the color of her eyes. Yeah. And they actually matched her, and actually they did an amazing job. If you see the car and you see the color of her eyes, they did an amazing job. Can people send you a swath of something they want you to match? And
absolutely.
All of that?
We do everything. Yes. We'll color match anything, put any graphic on the guitar that the person wants. If they want they want like a picture of their kid on there, or their dog or something. We've done it all. We've done some amazing things.
What about neck carve? Let's say somebody had a certain guitar that they absolutely fell in love with, but it's done. They just don't want to take it out anymore, but they want another, or it's worth too much money to take on the road. That we hear that all the time. Can they get basically any neck carve that they want, and how would they give you that information? How to get the actual feel?
First of all, yeah, we have over 60 different neck shapes that we offer. And but then having said that, the sky's still the limit. If somebody at the master built level, if somebody's got a specific neck profile they want, all they need to do is send us a drawing of it. And or there have been instances in the past where we've been able to actually measure the guitar, take the measurements and things. So
Sure.
yeah, the sky's at the master built level, the sky is the limit.
That's fantastic. So do you find it, just a couple more questions, do you find that, is it more people looking for cosmetic customization, or is it more people looking for, let's say, call it performance customization? They want this neck carved, those pickups, this, that, thing. Or as I'm looking at your website, looking for a leather pick guard or a certain design or color or scheme or something of that nature. Is it, how does that break down? What is the common customer, if you will? What are they looking for when they come to you?
Performance.
And
in looking at what gets ordered on a day-to-day basis, it's like that classic Fender vibe, right? It's the thing that hits you in your heart. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like you see a guitar that looks like what the broadcaster looks like. It makes your heart warm. Or
right.
Or a 50s style Strat or a 60s style Strat. Maybe it's a little bit beat up, right? And because what it does is your mind goes to all these artists and all this music that's been played and written on these guitars. You know what I mean? And so it's like an emotional thing. From the custom shop, you can get that, right? You can get guitars that look like that and feel like that, and they feel like they're already broken in, right?
Right.
And so you see a lot of that, but they want the performance, the functionality to be a little bit more up to date, in terms of the way people play the guitar today versus the way people played 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Is there a question that you would like me to ask you regarding the custom shop? Nobody ever asks us about this. Is there something that you'd like people to know that I haven't touched on?
Well, we kind of touched on it, but it's really, we are the dream factory. And
I love it.
What people, what you see, when you watch these videos, or you look at our website, or you look at our catalogs and things, you see models of guitars, like a broadcaster.
Right.
So sometimes I think the idea is that that's what we do, right? We come up with models, because we'll put out a collection for the year, and you'll see comments like, "This is great, why not more colors, or where's the left-handed," things like that.
Right.
And the answer is always, we're a custom shop, and you can order any of these in any color you want, left-handed, right-handed, wrong-handed, no extra charge, right? So the thing is that we are a custom shop, we are the dream factory, and you can have it your way, anyway.
Are there any misconceptions about the custom shop that you'd like to dispel?
Well, I don't know if it's a misconception, but it's definitely not a factory.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shop. The way we're set up is to build a certain amount of completely different guitars every day. If a shop is set up to build X number per day or week or whatever it is, we're set up to build for each one of those to be completely different.
Excellent.
So it's not a factory, it's not a production line or anything like that. Everyone is approached like it's a one-off. Man, it was great to talk to you, Bob. And
thank you. I appreciate it. I try not to sound too stupid, but I want you to tell your story is what I'm trying to get you to do, and I think you did a great job of it. So thank you very much, Mike. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.